All right, guys, we're back here trending in the AM. This is going to be probably the most important game of the season up to date for the Eagles. They have to win this Sunday. I'm going to explain why, and we're going to discuss it and break it down. We're also going to discuss what Doc said after the Wednesday game and why is it not a major outrage. I think it should be an outrage, not an outrage, an outrage. We're going to discuss that as well. Dylan Davis, Phil Stifel, trending the AM, 30 seconds.
Gets around in front. Joel Embiid and Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Make sure you do me the favor, though. Head over to the DSM Media YouTube page and do your interacting there if you can. Like, subscribe, comment. Even if you're watching this show on replay, I go throughout the day and check all comments that get added to the shows on the replays, and I will interact with you there as well. Good morning to everybody. I am Phil Stifel. We've got Dylan Davis sitting next to me. We've got Dylan, in my opinion, one of the most important games of the season, if not the most at this point, about to come up this Sunday for the Eagles. We are going to dive into it. Am I overreacting on a Friday morning, but Dylan, saying that this game is massively important for the Eagles this season?
Well, Philip, happy Friday.
Yes.
How are we? We're good. All right. I want to know why. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not agreeing. I want to know the reasoning why this game against the Titans is that important.
Let's break this down here very simply.
All right.
The easiest way I could say it is if you look at the rest of the Eagles' schedule, the next 3 games are on the road, 2 against division opponents. The last 5 games of the season, 3 of them are against divisional opponents. All 3 of those games against divisional opponents are going to mean so much in the playoff standings, in the division standings. Nobody thought the Giants would be where they are today. Now, they might not be as good as their record says, but they're still fighting very hard. Dallas still has a chance to win the division technically. You get this win against the Titans and keep that 2-game separation. It helps solidify. There's a chance that we can actually lock up a playoff spot on Sunday if we win, depending on what some other teams do.
Yeah.
You lose this game, you open the door for the Cowboys and the Giants a little bit more. You open the door that we might not even win the division anymore. I want that division title. I want that home playoff game at the link. I think we still get it, even if we lose. We still win enough games to get that. But the difference between this team's future, the rest of this season, with a win this week versus a loss is vastly different, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, so I agree with you from that point of view because it's interesting, right? When people use the term must win, I ask, what do you mean? Because there's some people in this fan base that would take must win to mean if the Eagles lose this game, there's problems, there's internal issues. Like if they need to win this game for specific reasons. From a standing point of view, I understand what you mean. Take the Giants out of the equation. I know they're only 2 games back, so if they swept us and they picked up a game this week, it'd get interesting. I don't foresee that happening. They're way too banged up, and they're not sweeping the Eagles. And they haven't had recent success against the Eagles regardless. The Vikings are another team because of the 1 seed. If you still win the division, you want to get home field throughout. So the Vikings and the Cowboys are the 2 teams you're trying to fend off. My only pushback is you could say this for the rest of the year because if you look at the Cowboys schedule compared to the Eagles, it's a little easier down the stretch for Dallas. They have Indy at home on Sunday Night Football this week. So there's going to be weeks from here on out where the Cowboys can pick up a game. The reason I'm not there yet is because the Eagles at the end of the day will still control their own destiny by playing Dallas on Christmas Eve. And if we view this team as highly as we do, I know the Cowboys, Dak Prescott back, they're scoring points, Micah Parsons, that defense. If we view the Eagles as highly as we do, they will win that game on Christmas Eve.
Right. But the way you're saying it, so let's look at this week. We're home against Tennessee, but after that, you're going on the road for 3 straight weeks. You're on the road in New York against the Giants, then on the road to Chicago, which Chicago's not a good team, but if Justin Fields is back and healthy by that point, it's still it's still a tough. It's not an easy pushover game. Mid-December Chicago. Who knows what the weather will be? And then you go for a third straight week, Christmas Eve into Dallas. I mean, that's the end of a really long road trip for this Eagles team. A lot of travel all over the place, right around the house. Now, there's no excuses if you expect to be a Super Bowl contending team. You can't make those excuses, but you could see there's a scenario where they lose one of those 3 games. There's a scenario where they lose 2 of those 3 games, and that's why if you even think there's even a slim chance that they lose 2 of those 3 road games, which it's iffy if they do or not, but if they do, you need this Titans game.
Oh yeah,
because if you lose to 2 of those 3 road games, that puts you at 3 losses. You lose the Titans, now you're at 4 losses. You know what I mean? So that's how I'm looking at that. That I want that home field. You bring up the Vikings. I didn't even mention them. I want that number 1 seed, but I definitely want that home field first playoff game
for sure.
And you need to get the best record possible at this point. And winning this week helps solidify that number 1 seed, I think, so much more than people realize. Look, I don't want to take anything away from the teams we're playing the rest of this way, but the Cowboys are still a very viable threat in the NFC. The NFC, we talked about it before the season started. The NFC is wide open. Any team, no one thought the Eagles were going to be at this point at the start of the season. Everyone thought the Packers or the
Packers,
Niners,
Rams, and Bucks. Those were the 3 teams we gave, and all 3 of them stink.
So, and it's even though we only have 1 loss, I kind of still feel like, and even though I'm super high on where the Eagles are at this point, I still feel the NFC is wide open. You got the 49ers coming up from behind.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot that could still happen. That's why winning this week, so that if you drop one of the next 2 or 3 games, isn't as impactful on the standings as it could be if you lose this week.
No, I do agree with you from that point of view. When I look bigger picture, I understand the worry. I understand the threat that a 3-game road stretch would pose, especially with Dallas being the final one on the holiday, right? Like, you're looking past it. You're just trying to get back home at that point. The Chicago becomes somewhat of a trap game, even though I'm not worried about 167 passing yard Justin Fields, as some people might be worried.
Agree there.
The Giants, dude, they're so banged up. I really can't. A couple weeks ago, I would have taken them a little more seriously. They are so banged up, especially offensively, where I'm just not there where I'm worried about them at this point.
I just worry about, but you got to take into effect the Brian Dabble factor with the Giants. Yeah, they're banged up, but he's got them still even banged up, playing very effective football. All right, so here's another way it plays out. We win or lose this week, and the importance of winning this week. Even if we beat the Giants next week, they're still going to bang us around and beat us up. And then we're going to go to Chicago. We're still going to beat 160-yard passing Justin Fields, but they're going to bang us up. And then we're going to have to go on the road again on Christmas Eve, where most of these team members of the Eagles have families at home they want to get to for Christmas. You know, you win this week, you can't. If you lose this week to Tennessee, you can't lose on Christmas Eve to the Dallas Cowboys. That's where I'm saying you can afford that loss to the Dallas Cowboys if you win this week.
Oh, no, you're right. The one last thing I think we have to factor in, Phil, is yes, as Eagles fans, we're worried about our own home. We're worried about our own team. But in this equation, you have to take into account that also has to do with the Cowboys not choking, and it's something I just don't foresee happening.
That's another whole subject. Yeah, I agree there.
The Cowboys have to win off of the Eagles' losses. So
I can't bring that in. That totally changes my narrative of the show. I'm trying to direct the narrative, and you're totally.
The Cowboys have to beat Jeff Saturday on Sunday night. You know what I'm saying? It's not an easy task.
I could see them losing
Sunday night, Saturday. I don't know why I said Saturday.
I know.
Sunday night.
All right, so let's talk about Sunday. Tennessee Titans 7-4.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like they're an underappreciated, not underrated, underappreciated team in the NFL. They're not great. They have flaws on their team, but they do a few things very, very well, specifically run the football. How do the Eagles come in Sunday and get the win so that this whole narrative of the next 3 games doesn't matter as much because they get the win?
Tennessee's a weird team to me. So Scotty and I talked about it on Turf Talk. There's a few teams, especially in the AFC, where I can't figure them out. Normally week 11, 12, 13, 14, this area, you start to figure out what teams really are, right? And Tennessee was this team. They start out 0-2. They go 7-1 in the next 8. They're 7-2, running away with their division. They drop one and then to the Chiefs, and then next thing you know, they get this big game at home against Cincinnati with no Jamar Chase, and they lose this, and they struggle to move the ball, and they struggle to score. So I don't know how legit to what standard to hold this Tennessee Titan team to. You bring up the running game, and that is going to be the storyline of the show. Probably it's going to be the storyline all weekend, because what have the Eagles struggled with defensively, and who's in the backfield for Tennessee? The only saving grace that I have at this moment, it's not the same King. It's not the same Derrick Henry that we've seen in years past. And I know this sounds kind of crazy because he's had flashes, right? He's had glimpses this year where he's looked phenomenal. He's rushed for $130 and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry only has less than 150 more rushing yards than Miles Sanders this season, Phil, on 70 more carries. The last 3 weeks or so, Derrick Henry has been held to around 3 yards per carry or under. They are not finding the same rushing success that they've had in the past. The new addition of Robert Woods has brought them ultimately nothing to replace A.J. Brown. He's got 1 touchdown, 35 catches this year. Ryan Tannehill does not pose a threat. So while this seems like a tough game, because it's going to be, because they're very sound defensively, you talked about beating you up. They are going to beat you up.
Just as much as we struggle to stop the run, they don't struggle. They're one of the best run defense. Their pass defense is atrocious, and we're going to get into that in a second. But so, excuse me, you talk about Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill is what he is. But Ryan Tannehill is better than what he's showing this year. You take A.J. Brown off your team, of course you're not going to look, and you replace him with Treylon Burks. I know Treylon Burks has actually had, I think, 2, maybe 3 weeks. He's starting to slowly show a little bit of.
He has 24 receptions for 334 yards, no touchdowns. I think
he's had like 200 of those yards in the last 2 weeks. I know he had a 100-plus yard game a week or two ago, another 80-yard game a couple weeks ago. So he's starting to slowly turn a corner. You take A.J. Brown off that team, obviously Ryan Tannehill is going to struggle. Obviously, Derrick Henry isn't going to be as good because the Eagles' defense, to stop this, whether Jordan Davis comes back or not, and we'll get into that in a second, you could stack the box. You can let Slay and Bradbury go one-on-one with Burks and Woods and not worry. You could have 1 safety in the back there and bring another safety up into the box even. You could stack 8 in the box and not worry about it. But in the back of my mind, I have seen glimpses in the past when everyone's just worried about Derrick Henry. All of a sudden, Ryan Tannehill throws for 250 yards and beats a team because they are a soundly coached team in all assets of the game. So there is a little, you can't just write Ryan Tannehill off completely.
No, not at all. But I do think you bring up a very important part, right? Ryan Tannehill, when he has a successful day, would probably be around 250, 275, throwing for a touchdown or 2. But what's he doing, Phil? He's taking care of the football, correct? This Eagles defense is the best this season statistically at taking away the football. So that's one big thing you'll be looking for this weekend on Sunday is, can you turn Ryan Tannehill over and can you get to Ryan Tannehill? But I would agree with you. I would stack the box. That's the route I would go, and I would make Ryan Tannehill throw for 275 and protect the football. That's how they beat me. That's how they're going to try to have to beat me because I'm not letting Derrick Henry do it. Problem is, we know the philosophy's not changing at this point. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but it was a clip of, I think it was NFL Live with Orlovsky and Ryan Clark doing a breakdown of the Eagles defense against the Green Bay Packers. And they highlighted the middle of the field against the run and the pass. And listen, I'm one of them, I guess you would call defenders of this defense, where some people just attack it week in and week out. And I try to find, I give them some room to wiggle here. You can't do that against this Titans team because where can Ryan Tannehill beat you? Over the middle.
Yeah. But there is one little glimmer that I saw yesterday. And again, I was really busy yesterday. I didn't do the show. It was kind of a last second thing, but I did get a few minutes to surf Twitter, throughout the day. I saw rumors from practice. Now, there is no confirmation whether Jordan Davis is playing or not. He says he's ready to go. He wants to play. It's going to be up to the coaches. I think he plays. But I saw that from yesterday's practice, they actually ran defensive sets with Jordan Davis, Linville Joseph, and Ndamukong Suh all on the field at the same time together in the middle. Does that give you any thought that maybe they're thinking, fine, like maybe Jonathan Gannon's thinking, look, this is not Aaron Jones. This is not, whoever. This is Derrick Henry. That's the only thing we have to stop to win this game. Putting those three guys on the field together, that's quite a big middle of the line right there.
I think I'm going to feed off of the clip. Like I said, to me, it's not so much the interior of your line. It plays a role. Do not get me wrong. The linebackers are incredibly important. And when I hear those three defensive tackles together in the middle of the line, Phil, you know what I'm envisioning? The vision that you had before the season started of the 5 defensive linemen. Absolutely. You put 5 defensive linemen on the line, you're looking at what? 2 backers, soft in the middle. It's not about the push that they can get. Yeah, you're going to get a couple stops here and there. We've seen it with the defensive line. Can the linebackers come up? Can they fill gaps? Can they fill the correct hole and wrap up and make a tackle? That's been the issue.
Well, and that's it. But everybody talks about how great T.J. Edwards and Kazir White is. And I've spent the entire week on social media pounding my theory that they're not as good as people think they are, and that we should be seeing some Nakobe Dean on the field.
Nice pieces. They're not.
And they exceed. So here was their baseline at the start of the year. The first 3 weeks, they played way above that baseline. Now they're back to their baseline, and their baseline is nice pieces, fill-in pieces till Nakobe Dean's ready. Well, you got a run-heavy team, and you've got a rookie linebacker that flourishes at stopping the run. Why not give Nakobe Dean 10 snaps a game, 12? Give him 2 series, see what he's got. I mean, that if you're only going to have your 2 linebackers and you're going to leave that middle of the field open, well, maybe Nakobe Dean will give you a little bit more on a run-heavy, team. Like the Tennessee Titans. I still cannot get over why Nakobe Dean cannot sniff the field. There's got to be something else going on there.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to me either, because that was the excuse in the beginning of the year, right? Well, Nakobe Dean's not getting on the field because T.J. Edwards and Kazir White have just been too outstanding. You can't take them off the field. Hasn't been the case for quite some time now. They haven't been bad. They have not been negatives on this defense.
People think I'm bashing.
No.
I'm not. He's okay.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So the fact that the 3rd round pick, who was projected to go in the 1st round, this leader, this high IQ, this run stopper, cannot see the field. And I forget who put a tweet out about it, but a guy around the league had essentially said if Nakobe Dean was on about 30 other teams, he would have a role on defense.
I forget who it was, but I saw that as well. Yeah.
Why not here? It would be like, it doesn't make sense. But again, it goes back to the stubbornness of the defensive coordinator, man.
Yeah, I really would love to know. I got to get to somebody that's really in depth with the Eagles. We've heard in the past that, with Doug Peterson, like, we would question his running back rotation. He says, well, I have nothing to do with it. Running back coach Deuce Staley says who he's putting out each play, and then I just call the play.
Yeah.
I wonder if Jonathan Gannon, who's controlling the defensive rotations? Is Jonathan Gannon? Does Nick Sirianni just say whatever you want to do? I trust you. Or can Nick Sirianni maybe get in Jonathan Gannon's face a little bit and be like, yo, come on. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's Howie Roseman, and we've heard all those rumors in the past of how much he controls it. I don't know. But whoever's in control of that rotation needs to be spoken to.
I would imagine it has to be JG, for the reason that, like, when you look at Deuce Staley, because I heard the same thing as you, and I think he still does in Detroit, but Deuce Staley was the running back coach here. So, like, he controlled that group. Deuce Staley had nothing to do with wide receiver substitutions, tight end packages, nothing like that. Defensively, like, what would that be? The linebacker coach is doing the rotation. Like, I don't see them having a role like that. Maybe I'm wrong. So I would imagine it has to be Jonathan Gannon's decision. But again, it's just that just proves the theory of why you shouldn't really have hope that his philosophy or his scheme isn't really going to adjust week to week, depending on the opponent. Because if he can't adjust a simple package because this is what he started with, it was working, so clearly it works, I got to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's changing much else. So, it's a worry.
All right, so let's move to the offensive side of the ball, because just as much as we're focused on stopping the run, that is, like I said, what the Titans do best. They stop the run. Their pass defense, I think it's ranked 31st, 30th, whatever. It's one of the worst pass defense. And obviously there's the hype of A.J. Brown going up against his former team, and and everybody's excited about that and how much we've run the ball effectively the last few weeks. My biggest concern, they stopped the run. They cannot run the ball effectively against the Titans, the Eagles. Can Jalen Hurts pick this defense apart? And my biggest concern is this is the game that we are going to miss Dallas Goedert the most. Because with this past defense of the Titans, having an effective tight end that can go over the middle, draw in safeties, linebackers, whatever, to clear the outside for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, this is where it's going to rear its ugly head the most. I'm not saying it's going to stop the Eagles, but I'm going to say that it's going to be the game that we miss him the most.
I don't think people understand how important Dallas Goedert is to this offense, and I think you're seeing it firsthand. Now, obviously, I know they scored 40 on Sunday night, so it seems weird to say that, but I think the Indianapolis game you saw firsthand, obviously that was the first week without him. But you're right. Like he's just the focal point of this offense, and not necessarily he gets the most targets, he gets the most catches, blah, blah, blah. I know we have A.J. Brown, and we had Devontae Smith, and we have all these shiny toys in the run game. So much runs through him in the middle of the field schematically, where he draws so much attention and he's involved in every play, even if he's not, right? So I agree with you. That is one of my major concerns heading into this game against the Titans and Mike Vrabel, because he is going to figure out a way. He's a defensive-minded guy. He's going to figure out a way to try to limit Jalen Hurts and his mobility this weekend. So if Jalen Hurts can beat them through the air, Phil, I think he can. Like, just I said this yesterday to Scotty. I am now at a point. I came into this year with so many question marks about this kid, specifically through the air. And now not only has he answered them and passed them with flying colors, he actually has me just oozing with confidence about him. If they need a score and they're only up 3 in the fourth quarter, if they're losing, if they're down early, I have no worry that this kid can bring them back with his arm now. So to me, this weekend, I don't only think he can beat them, I think he actually has a day somewhat through the air and just has us sitting back like, here he goes again. Like, and he leads them to victory against his Titans team down Dallas Goedert.
I agree that he could do that. It's going to come down to one thing, and that's protecting him.
And okay, yeah. I thought you were going to say protecting the ball.
No, protecting him, because I still believe it's an underrated issue on this team is the pass protection of Jalen Hurts. We give up pressure. We don't give up a lot of sacks because Jalen Hurts is able to avoid. Like, I remember last week, I'm like, I bet you Jalen Hurts got sacked 5 times against the Packers just because that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the box score and it was twice because he's able to avoid so much pressure. I mean, the Titans don't have a lot of household names, but they got guys with 7, 6.5, 5.5, 4.5. They get after they don't pick the ball off a lot. They don't force a lot of fumbles, but they do get after the quarterback half decently. And Jordan Mailata, I'm looking at the left side of the offensive line as a whole. That left side has really, here was their baseline. That's my term of the day to start the year. They've kind of played below their baseline. And I'm not sure what it is, whether Jordan Mailata and Dickerson have hit a wall, but they've kind of stepped down a little bit, in my opinion. And maybe it's partly also Dallas Goedert. I mean, he's your best, not only is he your best tight end, he's your best pass blocking tight end as well. You don't have him getting chips off the block there, but we can't let these guys keep hitting Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
He's got to have time to find A.J. Brown, who can have a huge game, wants to have a huge game. Everybody wants him to have a huge game this weekend. You got to protect Jalen Hurts, and I just hope that Stoutland can figure out what's going on that left side of the offensive line and fix it this week.
I want to change it slightly for you. So you bring up Stoutland and we're talking about Jalen Hurts. To me, offensively, this game falls on the shoulders of Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen 110%. And here's why. We're talking about missing Dallas Goedert. First week without him, you went into Indy. Offense scored 17 points, struggled to score. Jalen had to lead them to victory. But you saw a lot of what? You saw Nick not really adjusting his offense post Dallas Goedert from when he had Dallas Goedert, trying to plug and play with 3 different tight ends, going 12 personnel. You cannot do that with Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra and Tyree Jackson. So the offense struggled mightily that week. Now, last week they scored 40, but they did what? Rush for 360. Like you said, probably not going to be able to do that. So now it's another stepping stone post Dallas Goedert of Nick Sirianni tinkering with this offense to find another way to work. And you cannot do that just trying to plug and play Jack Stoll in place of Dallas Goedert. You have to find ways to get Quez Watkins, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, these running backs, the ball in space out of the backfield, get a little more creative. So to me, it's on that more so than anything.
They got more effective and more creative with Quez Watkins last week. He was on the field a little bit more. He obviously had to touch it. You also saw a lot more of Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell than we have. Even though Miles Sanders had the big rushing game and Jalen Hurts had the big rushing game, you saw more of Scott and Gainwell catching the ball out of the backfield, doing different routes and all. I think that's key. Making sure that they have a creative, is that the right way, game plan? A different game plan?
No, creative works.
They might try to look, even all their games, you pick whatever games you want to pick last week or another week where they were a dominant run game and that's why they won. They still started all those games that they ran heavily trying to pass the ball.
Yeah.
They come out every game, try to pass the ball. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then they get to the run.
Pivot, yeah.
Yeah, they always pivot that. But you can't pivot to the run. If it doesn't work on the first drive, this is a big concern of mine. And I know it sounds like I'm being very negative on this game. I'm not. I do think the Eagles win this game. But my concern is that they have to stick to the pass. And if it's ineffective early, that means more touches for Derrick Henry early, which wears the defense down, keeps the offense off the field, kind of like, was it the Colts game where we were on the field for so many plays? You know,
well, Washington as well.
Washington, that was the game I was thinking of. That's my concern of this game, is if we're pass heavy, because we have to be, it's not effective early, you get Derrick Henry some momentum. Once Derrick Henry gets that momentum, he's going to rush for 200 yards if he gets that momentum and eat the defense alive. That's what we need. We need to be creative, passing the ball quickly, early, and effectively, so that we're not getting into that Washington situation again.
Yeah, no, and I think when you use the word creative, don't overthink it, right? Like sometimes when we watch offensive coordinators and head coaches and play callers try to get creative, it's trying to get too cute. And when something's working, you try a little flip reverse in the backfield and it gets blown. Right. Like, no. That's not what I mean by creative. I mean outside the box, different than what you've been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, because you cannot just lean back and go back to what was working before. Different personnel, it's not going to work in that sense. The Derrick Henry point is everything, right? Because how do you slow down one of the best offenses in the league if you're Tennessee? Keeping them on the sideline. It's the Tom Brady effect, the Aaron Rodgers thing, right? It's you're obviously have a better chance to win the game if they're not in the game. So what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to run the ball. So offensively, if you're the Eagles, you cannot have short drives, quick ending drives. So 3 and outs from your own 22, 1 first down from your own 30 cannot happen a lot in this game, because if you do that, you're bringing that tired defense on the field. Derrick Henry gets statistically better as the game goes on. Derrick Henry is at his best in the third and fourth quarter. I know that sounds crazy for a guy that probably touches the ball 35 times. So isn't he getting worn out? No. His 6'4" ass, however tall he is, that continues to run through our linebackers and save. That's why it's so important that he doesn't get to the second level, because I don't need Reed Blankenship and Marcus Epps having to touch him up multiple times in the first half, because guess what, Phil? They're not going to want to in the second half.
If you really, really follow Derrick Henry, and as a fantasy football guy, I followed Derrick Henry a lot over the years. Yeah. It's funny. Most of his 80-yard touchdown runs or 60-yard touchdown runs come in the second half of games. Yes. Not first half, because he just sits there. He gets 3 yards on first down, 3 yards on second down. They pass the ball on third down. They get it or they don't get it. If they get it, he gets next first down, 3 yards. He just keeps pounding, running you down, wearing you out. And then the second half, you're worn out. And all of a sudden, he just starts running right over people.
Yeah, his yards per carry statistically go up in the second half.
It's insane how, but it makes sense, because he wears you out.
Yeah,
and that's all you got to do. So that's why being effective on offense, controlling the ball, even if it's through the air, controlling the ball is going to be very, very, very important this week.
Something that should never be an issue at this level, but happens to be an issue sometimes with this defense, that's going to play a huge role, is tackling. Because we see so many missed tackles week to week with this defense. And speaking of tackling, I've never seen Derrick Henry get taken down so many times by one-arm tackles, one-shoulder tackle, by one guy in the backfield for a loss. Years past, I never saw that. It's happening more and more this year. That's why I tell you he's not the same guy as he was 2 years ago.
But something that not just the missed tackles, and TJ Edwards has missed a bunch of tackles the last couple of weeks. He's been juked out of his shoes a couple of times. He's been missing tackles. It's the Eagles defense has a tendency when they make contact with the running back or whoever, the defensive player brings them down but falls backwards. And that backwards fall.
They threw Aaron Jones for a first down the other night.
Exactly. It gives them an extra 2 or 3 yards. It gives them the opportunity for a first down like Aaron Jones. That is what you need to tackle and stand them up. They don't stand anybody up. They don't do that. And I've seen Fletcher Cox. I've seen Hargrave. I've seen Edwards. I've seen White. I've seen so many guys when they're tackling, they're falling backwards, which it's basic, leverage and tackling techniques and stuff like that. But you got to want it more.
And I'll tell you what, there could be opportunities for ball. I don't know if you've noticed this, dude, but it honestly pisses me off because it goes against the rules as watching the game growing up. These officials this year have a very slow whistle towards forward progress. Guys get stood up, 6 guys in dude, they are letting that go for a very long time. Punch the effing ball.
Yeah.
Try to get the ball out. We saw him fumble on the 5-yard line when he was walking in for a touchdown against Cincinnati last week. Listen, I know it's Derrick Henry. I know he's a big guy. You just want to take him to the ground. The whistles have been extremely slow, and it bothers me, man. There's a play.
Was it last week or 2 weeks ago where we got an extra 7 yards?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, I was yelling at the TV to blow the whistle because I didn't want to get punched out. And then we got a first down or we scored. I was just like, wasn't it
Jalen Hurts?
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure. I know what you're talking about.
I was screaming, call it dead, because I didn't want him getting hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
I was worried about him getting hurt there because all you need is someone to come in low there or something like that.
And then next thing you know, he's in the end zone. I'm like, oh, all right. But it's a bad rule because, dude, to me, I know it's off topic, but once you can't go, once the person himself cannot go anywhere, blow the whistle. I know on a QB sneak, you get behind the guy, you push him forward. What's happening when there's 17 guys in a circle and they're just basically having a shoving match and they're just play on?
Yeah. It's not rugby.
No.
I mean, I think that's what rugby is. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever watched
it. You lock shoulders and
y'all just charge at each other and stuff.
That's why we have Jordan Mailata, but
yeah, exactly. I still want to see Jordan Mailata run a football one time.
Me too.
One time. That's all. I just want to see what it's like. All right. We'll spend a few more minutes here. Let's wrap this up. So obviously got Eagles pregame live on DSM Media. Again, if you're subscribed to the channel, you'll know, hit the notifications. You'll know when we go live with that. I mean, you could save your predictions if you want, Dylan, for pregame live. But if you had to give me, we've just talked about so many keys here and so many things that have to happen. If you had to give me the one thing that if they do it correctly, they win the game. If they fail at it, they lose the game. What is the number one key to victory or loss for the Eagles on Sunday?
Well, outside of giving the obvious answer and saying slowing down or stopping Derrick Henry, I will go a different route and I will say turning Ryan Tannehill over.
Okay. I think that could work because you turn him over and that's putting more pressure on Derrick Henry. And if you can effectively stop Derrick Henry.
If you can turn Tennessee over 2 times and you take care of the ball yourself offensively, I don't think the Eagles lose this game.
Okay. All right. I like that. I think that no matter what, Derrick Henry is getting 100 yards on Sunday. Win or lose.
It's inevitable, right?
He's averaging 96, I think, or 97 yards a game. We're going to give up 100 yards. You kind of have to almost not worry about the number of yards. But to me, the Eagles win. The number one key for me, they win if we win the time of possession battle. If we keep our defense off the field, our offense on the field, whether it's passing, short passing, deep passing, whatever it may be, that we win that time of possession battle, we win the game. We lose. If it's another Washington situation, unfortunately, it's going to be a loss in my opinion.
And Tennessee's more talented on both sides of the ball. So you get into a close game like that, you do not want to get into a dogfight.
At Washington.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
The way it came out, I knew what you meant, but I just want to make sure that everybody
Come on, people. No.
Exactly. We're going to take a quick pause in the break here. Today's show is brought to you by Gents Barber Lounge. Check out one of their 2 great locations, Fishtown and Old City, and book your appointment today. They own the craft and it shows, rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area. Multiple award-winning barbers and able to handle any style cut, adult or kid. Check out some of their great work right here. All right, we're back here trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. I'm Phil Stiefel. We got Dylan Davis. Dylan, I'm going to say it now. I don't know if I'll be on pregame show for the Eagles. Not positive. Might have to work. But just in case I'm not, I'm just going to drop my score prediction right now. I can change it. If I decide by Sunday I want to change it on the show, I can edit it. But as of this moment, I've got Eagles 27, Titans 21. That's how I see it playing out. Not overly high scoring, but not low scoring.
Still covering the spread.
Cover the spread. I think they hit the over.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
I saw someone put something out there that this was yesterday sometime. 70% of the money was being bet on the over on that game.
Interesting.
A lot more money was also being bet on the over under versus the line, because there's a lot of people that are really finicky on that what is it, 4.5 point line?
4.5, yeah.
Yeah. So the over is the play there for the most part, it seems. But
it's weird, man. I like the over too, but I hate going where the money's going. I hate going with the public when it's that high.
All right, so we got to switch subjects here for a little bit because we got to talk about something, Dylan. And I mentioned I texted you last night, and you said you hadn't even seen it yet, so you've been totally living under a rock for a day, or the fact that it's not getting enough of an outrage as I think it is. Obviously, Wednesday night, the Sixers got completely smoked by the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, I don't even care about talking about the game, but it was the comments from Doc Rivers after the game. Oh, we got Parcero jumping in here too. What's up, my man? How you doing?
What's going on, guys?
I wasn't sure if you were showing up. All right, we're going to pause the Sixers talk for a second here. All right, we'll get back to that in a second.
Wait,
my man, El Parcero, at Parcero Philly. World Cup. Saturday, 9 a.m. We're putting a little curveball in trending the AM here.
Dude, you guys going to wake up for that one? I know. I'm not
I wake up early every day.
I'll be drinking already.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question here.
Shoot, man.
Is the USA making it to the out of the group stage of the round of 16? Is that as big of a moment for soccer, for football in America as I think it is?
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, and just for full disclosure, guys, I'm not a U.S. men's national team fan. I've been paying attention because it's been fun to watch them, honestly. It's a very fun story. But I think the furthest they have gone was with the quarterfinals. In 2002, I think that when they lost to Portugal, if I'm not mistaken. So this would definitely be a very big accomplishment if they're able to get past this first round. They haven't really been able to do it. I think the last two times, obviously 2018, they didn't qualify, right? But in 2014, they lost to Belgium, which was a really good team. They were a lot younger at that point. And then in 2010.
Did we lose him already?
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, that World Cup conversation went real fast there. Dylan, are you into the World Cup? Did you watch the
I've been paying attention, man. Yeah. If I can tell you one thing, I can tell you the gambling gods aren't really on my side with it. But
I will never bet the World Cup because I know so little about it. I don't trust it. I don't know anything about betting the money line, the tie, the not the tie.
Yeah. No, he's back. There he is.
There we go.
We stalled for a second there.
There we go.
So 2010.
So 2010, they lost to Ghana. That was a tough upset loss. That was a game where it went into extra time. So if they wait to get past those, which it won't be easy, it would definitely be a big step because you got to remember this is a new generation of Americans. So this would be definitely a big step. The first World Cup together, moving on and with the first round of 16 win, that's definitely a big win for the U.S.
I think what I was getting at with the big win, though, also is just for the sport itself. There's a lot of eyes always on the World Cup, and you have the opportunity to help grow the sport in the country by making it to this bigger stage here. You got a better opportunity to bring fresh, kid. I talked about it with the Phillies that the younger generation wasn't really big in baseball, but this playoff run had my nephew, who's in the first grade, wanting to play baseball. The point that they make it this far and you see the country get excited and behind them. I think it's good for the sport as a whole. It's good for the MLS. It's good for the union and the fan base as a general.
Yeah, but here's the problem, though, Phil, because, listen, I've always had these same sentiments that you just mentioned. The problem is that the World Cup, as amazing as a sports tournament as it is, it's only once every 4 years. So the problem is that we've had over every World Cup, even going back to 94, that created the MLS, is that after the World Cup, people forget. people go back to, it's the winter night. People are going to go back to the NBA, the NHL, the NFL's in full circle, about to start the playoffs. So it's about the after. What do you do after the World Cup to keep that momentum going? And obviously for our league here in the MLS, we have to keep capitalizing. We're doing a great job. I mean, you saw the MLS Cup final. That was a big, that was a championship game that was extremely entertaining. So it's just to continue building blocks and continuing on with the momentum. But I mean, if you're a young kid, like, how do you not look up to Christian Pulisic, Tyler Adams? These are kids that are right in our backyard. I'm going over to Wall Way and I see a billboard of Brennan Aronson, Medford's own. So if you're a kid in this area, dude, you got to feel proud about it. And you got to think to yourself, like, can that be me?
Kids are local too.
Yeah,
as well.
I got 2 questions. One, does it help that this team, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're very young, correct? This is the golden era, the golden age for USA soccer. Does it help that they're the younger generation and not, 30, 35-year-old men out there for the younger generation?
I think that for this upcoming matchup against Netherlands, it does help because Netherlands is kind of in the same spot. They also didn't qualify for the World Cup in 2018, and they have a bunch of young players. But the Netherlands obviously has a history. However, though, if the U.S. moves on past this round, I think the experience will affect them because then at that point, you're going to go up against the Brazils, Argentinas, the Englands, those type of nations that have been doing this since, this stuff before time, right? So I think that is where it definitely it gets a little bit tricky. It's like the playoffs here, like for the NBA, the NFL. The teams with the experience typically do well because that experience is very valuable.
Secondly, how strong are Christian Pulisic's nuts?
Hershey strong, baby. Hershey strong, man.
Hershey strong.
Dude, he's gonna play, man. He's gonna play tomorrow. And dude, it's funny because they keep trying to compare him to Landon Donovan, right? Because he's the face of this era. And a reporter asked him if he has felt his World Cup moment, right? Because he got the goal that pretty much was a difference against Iran.
Saw that, yeah.
And he said, like, no, I haven't had my moment yet. And that, dude, if you're an American, you got to get juiced up because that's what you want to hear from your star player.
So obviously, you mentioned that the Netherlands and they have the history. They're young like Team USA, but they have the history. And I didn't even know that about Netherlands because, again, I don't follow, the international game until the World Cup or a little bit during the Olympics when the Olympics are around. I just assumed that the Netherlands were far and away a better team, a better club, and you look at the betting lines. I know Dylan just said right before you got on the air that he's been getting killed on the betting aspect of the World Cup. And the USA is a massive underdog.
Yeah.
Is it a closer match?
Oh, I'm laying it.
Yeah, are you laying it? Is it closer? Does Team USA have a chance against the Netherlands Saturday morning?
Dude, I really do think so. Like, I do hear like the whole underdog thing, and I hear people saying the Netherlands have this, and like I don't fully believe that. Like, Netherlands is very talented, and they might have the best back line in the tournament to going into tomorrow, but they're both honestly are built the same. Like, the U.S. still has a really good back line as well. I mean, the U.S. has only allowed 1 goal in this whole entire tournament. So they're pretty stout and pretty strong as well. It's going to be one of those matches where it's going to come down to who's going to make the least amount of mistakes and who's going to want to score a goal. Obviously, the U.S. has struggled with that. Their main struggle is that they don't have a number 9, a striker, the guy who scores the goals. You're relying too much on your Pulisic and your Tim Way, as talented as they are. Dude, they need to feed the ball to a guy who could put the ball in the back of the net. Now, tomorrow you probably won't have Josh Sargent. We'll see if he does play. He's someone else who is on the injury list. If not, what are you looking at? Haji Wright? You don't feel too comfortable with that. My fellow Colombiano, American Colombian, Jesus Ferreira, who a lot of people believe he should not be in this team, in this tournament with the U.S. He is another option. He's an MLSer who hasn't really played on this big type of stage. So that's going to be the main concern. I do kind of envision this going past 90 minutes. I don't know if it'll be like MLS Cup final, but the way these two teams are kind of set up, I mean, it could be big. And also, I just got the breaking news this morning. So,
Breaking news.
So, apparently, the flu has actually hit the Netherlands. One of their stars.
Smash that money line, Dylan, before it changes. Get on your phone right now. Smash it.
Plus 320.
So, Van Gaal, the coach of Netherlands, He disclosed it. He didn't disclose the players, though. What we do know, one of their star players in the midfield, Frankie de Jong, did get hit with the flu, so that could be a factor into tomorrow. But it's going to be wild. This World Cup in general, guys, has been wild. I'm sure Dylan's pockets have felt that too.
All right. Full disclosure, it hasn't been as bad as I make it. I've had a couple bad, like I've missed same game parlay by one corner, like things like that have really pissed me off.
You can same game parlay a World Cup game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've hit a few. Lost
You
a
are
few.
a degenerate, Dylan.
Dylan has not hit bankruptcy yet, guys. We're good.
No, we're all good. Messi helped me out one day with an anytime goal. It was pretty lit. But my last question for you, I know you said you can see it going past the 90 minutes.
Yeah, man.
I really need it to end in regulation. So if you had to put a percentage on it, where are we going here? U.S. money line and regulation.
If I'll say this, if it's in regulation, I don't think the U.S. wins. I don't think I just don't see how dude, this back line of Netherlands is really damn good. I mean, listen, they usually run a 3-man set, which is not typical. It is kind of typical. It's more of the modern game, right? But you got Virgil van Dijk, who is arguably the best at the position in the world.
Great.
Like, you talk about Jakob Glezes and Jack Elliott being the best here. No. Virgil van Dijk's the best in the world. And then you have Ake, who plays for Manchester City, which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, being one of
them.
The top of the Premier League. And then they got this young kid, Jurrien Timber, who comes from Ajax. Guys, Ajax is like the Philadelphia Union of youth development in Europe. Those guys just pump out young talent, feed them to Barcelona.
You're not helping me, Parcero. You're going the other direction with it. You were like Netherlands on the money line. Take it today. And talent.
The flu, Dylan. Remember, the flu.
Yeah, the flu.
That's a big point. We'll see. We'll see. You probably won't find out till before a game. So probably like 8:30, you'll find out what the starting lineup is. And at that point, Dylan, you better get on that sports book.
Mimosa in hand, we'll be ready.
Final World Cup thing. Biggest surprise. Anybody has there anyone out there that's going to make a run that's outside of the top? Brazil and Argentina. Is there any chance that any surprise team makes a run here out of the final 16?
Japan.
It's funny. I mean, Japan, I do like. Their structure is very similar to the Germans because a lot of those players, and I think their coaching staff does come from Germany. Like they've worked in Germany. That's definitely one I would look at. It's the problem is, Phil, like you don't really get underdog stories in the World Cup. You may hear like a team getting an upset win in the round of 16, but then it's done because problem is that you run into Brazil and Argentina and England, Spain, Germany. These teams have depth. These teams have players who've played in the top levels, Champions League, and that's really what makes it so difficult. I mean, honestly, listen, it is not too, if the U.S. can get out of this one, it is not too far-fetched to see them at least win one, maybe two more games. But World Cup final, dude, that takes a certain type of beast that we haven't really seen in a long time.
Is it like March Madness?
Not to that extent, because you don't get those George Masons that go all the way to the sweet to the Elite Eight or 4 and 4s.
The U.S. making it further, the George Mason.
That would be it, man. I mean, it's just really, really tough because it's every 4 years, and these players have really they do a really good job of getting together and getting ready for a tournament that's once every 4 years. It's really impeccable. It really is. It's tough to be an underdog.
Phil, I got one last question. I'm sorry. The U.S. goalie. Isn't he a backup for an MLS team or a backup for a team?
No. So he was the MLS goalkeeper of the year in 2021, and Arsenal, which is a pretty big club in England.
That's what he's okay.
They bought him. It's his first year, so there's still that stigma over there in Europe, Dylan. They really don't believe in Americans too much. There are Americans that are making a name, like the players on this team, but there's still that stigma over there, especially with the freaking Brits, bro. But with Arsenal, I mean, it's tough. I do feel like their coach is more inclined to give Turner a chance. He's doing a good job. I mean, he's put himself.
Lost him again.
See what happens when you ask one more question, Phil.
No more questions, dude. Oh man, did we lose him for good there?
We might have. Let's just put him right there when we see him move.
I'm on the sideline. Let's get back to my look. The World Cup talk's fine. But I want to spend. We got 10. We could go 5 minutes of overtime if we've got to here. The comments from Doc Rivers after the Cavaliers blowout loss, Dylan. It was a scheduled loss. And I know just taking that one line from a whole interview is kind of not giving it the whole picture. But
I see him moving.
Is he moving?
Yeah.
I keep wanting to get to this, but wrap it up. There we go.
Listen, guys, I'm so sorry.
You got to get some better internet connection down there, man.
Well, I didn't. This morning before I hopped on, I did not connect to the Wi-Fi that's upstairs. So that was my bad. But listen, I know you guys got to head out, but seriously, thank you so much for having me on, guys. Enjoy
USA.
tomorrow.
USA.
And I know I didn't get to say it, but Sixers bounce back tonight. We cannot have the same thing from Wednesday night. So love you guys. Let's go Philly sports. Go USA.
All right, so Dylan, what? Oh, he's back. There he's go. Yeah, he's gone. He's gone. He's here. Here we go.